Hello and welcome back to another Diabetic Wittering. Well, I asked for ideas about what I could talk about next, and one of the first things I got was a whole series of comments about, in particular, the 8-week blood sugar diet. Now, I also got a couple of comments with someone who said, I salute you for having got back on track and having basically put diabetes into remission. And I'm very grateful to him. And someone else almost immediately said, why do you salute him? I went straight on a different type of diet and I'm perfectly good now and I haven't got diabetes and it's fully in remission and various other things. Don't take it as an insult. I'm very grateful to all those people who have sent me comments saying that I've done quite well. And I have managed to get my diabetes in remission. It was up at 114 and I'm now down at the sort of 37, 38 on HbA1c tests. But that's not a case of me being a superstar, and it's in no way trying to denigrate anybody else who's controlled their diabetes in any other way. It's just I'm trying to give people an indication of what I've done, what you might be able to do, and also to raise awareness of diabetes, because I had no symptoms and I had absolutely no sign that I had anything like it. So don't get upset when people are pleased to hear that someone has cured them, well, not cured themselves, but taken the illness into remission. It's just a good thing to happen for them in particular. Now, if you do like these videos, please go and hit the like button. I don't care about anything else much, but if you hit the like button, it's more likely to get advertised. And really, I want these videos to get circulated fairly widely so that other people who are either struggling with diabetes or those who do not even realize they've got it might get awareness. Okay, so if you've got a moment, go down the bottom, hit that like button. Apart from that, let's get on with it. So I've been asked, would I talk about my experience dealing with the Fast 800 diet? That's what I call it. I'm not too sure if that's, oh, it is that, yeah. Here we go. There's another book here, the Fast 800 diet. So what are these two books? This is the one that was absolutely revolutionary for me. It was written by that delightful chap, Michael Mosley, who ever so sadly died this summer in Greece on a holiday, probably because of heat stroke, but his body was found some days later. Devastating loss for his family. He was a thoroughly decent chap who dedicated his life to making other people healthier. What does this book actually have? Well, it goes through everything to do with recent research into diabetes. So ignoring the forwards introduction and the general spiel, which he calls the blood sugar crisis, he then goes through the science, the obesity epidemic. I'm not going to hold it up for long because I can't read it from the screen. The obesity epidemic, why we're in the state we're in, how do you solve a problem like diabetes? Are you at risk of type 2 diabetes? And the answer is, if you're British or American, yes, you are. Then there's a few comments on going low carbohydrate and the return of the very low calorie diet. Then there's the diet, the 3 core principles of the blood sugar diet, what to do before you start the diet in practice, getting active, sorting out your head going forward. There's a bunch of recipes and menu plans, and that in essence is the whole book. What was most useful to me though was the first quarter or so, which is only the first maybe 100 pages. And why that was useful was it explained to me in simple terms what was the problem with my body and how I could possibly readjust things by just changing my diet to get things going well. In short, that's it. Now, it has got a bunch of recipes in the back. I'm not going to go through the recipes. I'm not going to go through this in any detail either. It's a good book. It's got loads of recipes. It's some of the recipes are really tasty, really interesting. But I was asked, how did I cope with it? So let's get into that. I used to be quite active. Before I was diagnosed with diabetes, I had a Bernese mountain dog, and we would walk over the moors, we would walk up on the roads around here, and we covered generally about 8 to 10 miles a day. COVID struck, couldn't go walking, the dog died, and all of a sudden things changed. It was 2 years ago, so 2022, that a brother of mine had died in New Zealand from the horrible cancer. He had had prostate cancer. He also had bowel cancer, and then he finally got a particularly vicious, pernicious cancer, which the name escaped me right now, but it will anaplastic thyroid cancer. It's one where there is no known cure, because everybody who gets it dies so quickly, no one's had a chance to try to experiment to produce a cure. So absolutely devastating, it was hideous. A little while later, another one of my brothers was told he had cancer. And in fact, we were told, because there were 4 of us, 4 brothers, and we were told that one having died, one having got it, the other 2 should be checked up immediately because it could well be hereditary. So off I toddled to the doctor, got tested, and that's how I discovered I had diabetes. No cancer, I was fine on that, but I had diabetes, and extreme diabetes. So I had no idea. First thing I did was, yes, I started taking more exercise, and yes, I started taking very heavy drugs. Now, the medics, the diabetic nurse at the GP's practice was very helpful, but clearly very busy. So he got me in for a meeting very quickly. He explained to me that I was likely to lose sensation in my toes. I needed to check my feet regularly. My eyesight could be affected, various other things. And after about half an hour, off I toddled. The difficulty was that he didn't give me any paperwork. I had no pamphlet, no briefing of anything in writing. And I don't know about you, but when I go and see even a doctor, I sort of go in with this basic concept that they know what they're doing. I certainly don't, so I'm probably better off taking their advice and just listening to them. The trouble is that all too often I find that I come out of a meeting with a doctor not having the faintest memory of what it was he actually said. I've had that with all kinds of different doctors' meetings, because you get the impression they're so busy and they've got so many patients to see that they really don't want to wait while you make a note of everything they're saying. But I never know which bits of information are the most relevant and which are the most important. So I try to make a note of everything, and then I miss a whole bunch of other stuff. So basically, I was expected to go away and find out what I could on the internet. I hate looking things up on the internet which are important, for the simple fact that it's quite hard to work out which are relevant and informational areas on the internet and which are twaddle. So it took me a fair time, and then I discovered this. So I read it, absorbed it, and I took to heart the main things he was saying, which were take lots more exercise, cut back the quantity of food you eat, cut back really heavily on the carbohydrates. So instead of having 3 slices of toast for breakfast, maybe a half a slice. Instead of having a banana and porridge, maybe just the porridge or the banana, and all sorts of other things. Now, it was difficult, I won't pretend it wasn't, because I have got a big appetite. I'm a greedy pig when it comes to food. I love it. Luckily, I've never really been that keen on sweet foods, so I've never been bothered about puddings and eating sweets all day or anything like that. But every now and again, it's nice to have something. But I've discovered that if I really overload on greens, I love cabbage, I love lettuce, I love broccoli, I love courgette, zucchini to you Americans, I love peas. All of those things are really good. I can still have porridge. I tend to limit myself to 30 grams of carbohydrate a day, which is not a huge amount. Carbohydrate, as the books tell you, is basically starches which you get in potatoes, pasta, bread, rice, all things. The starches you get tend to be sugar molecules that are all linked together to form very complex compounds. As soon as you eat those things, your blood sugars will rise enormously. So the main thing is to cut out carbohydrates as well as sugars, because the carbohydrates are the things that will do you harm. But there are carbohydrates such as oats in a porridge or such as lentils, which are slower release. So you can eat them, then take some exercise, and they'll more slowly release into your bloodstream so that you can maintain your exercise levels and not overload your blood. That makes sense? Yes, that makes sense. So I found that the book itself was fabulously useful and really helpful because it explained to me what the hell was going on. In terms of the diet, my wife found it quite difficult to adhere to the recipe ideas. I mean, we're two people living alone together, so we're two people living together. And she found it quite stressful trying to sort out food that she would find appealing as well as being healthy for me. There are lots of clues in these two books about the sort of foods that you can cook, and both of them give you menu plans and all that kind of thing, which is very useful, especially when you're starting out. I tend to find now that I don't worry so much about the specific recipes. I know roughly what things will spike my blood. I know that I can eat as much cabbage, broccoli, courgette, all of that kind of thing as I want. And then if I have a good amount of protein, a chicken breast, a slice of pork chop, something along those lines, then that is going to be a good healthy meal for me. I do occasionally have something like a sugar-free pudding. There are some sugar-free puddings advised in these things, such as very low sugar chocolate little I've got to think what on earth they're called. I can't think of the name of them. What are they called? Not that. No. They are called chocolate fondants. That's in this book, which is, I have to say, brilliant. But these things end up looking like that with runny chocolate on the inside. They're absolutely delicious. And the total amount of sugar that's in them is, for 8 of these little fondants, 2 dates. So there's only a quarter of 1 date in each of them as the sweetener. And there isn't much sugar in 1/4 of a date. So that's really tasty. And there's various other things. And I've found that basically, yes, my diet has changed radically, but it's not been that difficult. It was hard at the outset, just changing from an ordinary diet to only 800 calories a day. But I found 2 things. The first was, if I cut out breakfast completely, then I was fasting through from 7 o'clock the night before till midday the following day, and that worked quite well. If I got really, really hungry, I'd have a small handful of nuts. If I was still really hungry, I would have a hard-boiled egg. Now, it sounds stupid, but a hard-boiled egg really does make a big difference. When you eat it, it makes you feel much more full than if you're eating anything else, like a biscuit or something. I've obviously cut out all biscuits, cut out all cakes, which again, I haven't got a sweet tooth, so that was really very easy. When I need something that's got a bit of crunch to it or something, I'll eat an oat cake. That may not sound terribly appealing to you. To me, I find them very pleasant. If I am peckish and I need something to eat between meals, I might have a couple of sticks of celery, which have 0 calories and no sugar, no starch. And I'll put a little bit of cheese on them, cream cheese or whatever I've got knocking around. And that I find very effective at staving off hunger pangs. But very, very little in terms of calorific input. And then the main thing was huge amounts of salad leaves and an awful lot of green veg. And that way it's not that difficult to keep your daily input of calories to 800 or below. I did it for slightly more than 8 weeks. I think I was still doing it at about 10 or 11 weeks. And my wife grew quite concerned because I had lost by then something like 2.5 stone, which is, put it into perspective, about 30 pounds, I think. But it brought me down from a large size shirt to a medium size shirt. And there was some perplexity on the part of my wife and two of my brothers that maybe I was losing weight too much and I ought to stop. I think there was a lot of people who were concerned that I might end up as anorexic. Not a chance. I love my food. So basically after 11 weeks I decided, yeah, I'm nearly down to 11 stone. 11 stone is what I weighed when I was at what I call my fighting weight. I used to do karate in my very early 20s, and back then I was 11.5 stone. So I was, by that stage, just about 12 stone. And when I did the check on the, I forget what it's called, but the test that you've got that checks your weight compared to your height and stuff, I discovered that I was well within the safe area. So I thought, okay, time to stop then. And instead of sticking to the 800 fasting diet, I moved on to 2 days a week fasting, which my wife does too. We have been doing that for many years now. And on a Monday and a Wednesday, I would fast, and the weight has stayed off. Basically, the weight fluctuates a bit. If I have too much to drink, happens sometimes, well, generally it happens at least once a week generally, but if I have too much to drink, then that will put the weight straight on. What do I drink? Red wine and whiskey. Those two seem to have, well, they don't have no impact on my blood sugars. In fact, if I have a glass of red wine, it brings the blood sugars down, which makes it a wonderful drink, I think. Whiskey seems to have no impact whatsoever, so that's another wonderful drink. Gin too is okay. I drink gin with soda water rather than tonic water. I find that soda water actually allows me to appreciate the gin better, and it's got 0 calories. And that really is about it. I did find it challenging at first. I think most people will, but I found it surprisingly easy to stick to it. Now, I might have found it surprisingly easy to stick to it because mainly I feared having a leg amputated or dying, which I think is a valid incentive. But what I would say is, if you're in any doubt or if you need to lose weight, then the Fast 800 diet is probably a very good way to try, mainly because it's a time-limited thing. You know it's only for 8 to 10 weeks. And that makes it a great deal easier to go out and lose weight. And then take more exercise, change your diet, eat much more greenery, and you may well find that, like me, the weight stays off. As you can see, my double chin is still just about there, but I'm really, well, I certainly haven't returned to the 15 odd stone that I was. I'm still down at the 12 stone sort of mark. So it works. And that, in short, is my experience of the Fast 800 diet. Now, these series of chats, because that's all they are really, I am not a medical person, I'm not an expert, and I'm just trying to battle my own way through the rash of conflicting information that there is out there. But if you've got any questions, do please put them down the bottom, because trying to think up new topics to talk about is always a bit of a pain, and your input helps no end. That's it. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay healthy and take care. Speak to you soon.